One of the most important NASA missions being overseen right now is the Artemis project. The spacecraft flew by the moon and managed to gather terabytes of data, all of which is priceless as it's a step ahead to help humanity reach Mars. And what it captured were pure works of art. Keep watching and hold on to your seats as we delve into NASA's space voyage. Firstly, Orion finishes flyby. The unmanned Orion spacecraft successfully completed a crucial course correction maneuver on Monday morning, continuing the Artemis 1 mission as intended. Orion's closest approach will have been made by NASA's capsule, which was able to fly by the moon within 129 kilometers of its surface. At 2:09 p.m., the unmanned Artemis 1 spacecraft, which was launched on November 16th, entered the lunar sphere of influence on its way to its final destination, a far-off retrograde orbit. According to NASA, they made the first of Orion's 2 powered burns just recently, which are required to enter DRO. The thrusters on the orbital maneuvering system engine had to fire for 2 minutes and 20 seconds at that moment. Orion was traveling 8,084 kilometers per hour and was 528 kilometers above the moon. The capsule made the closest lunar approach of the Artemis 1 mission at 7:57 a.m., passing just 130 kilometers above the moon. Orion is currently attempting to move away from the moon at a velocity of 8,211 kilometers per hour. The term far retrograde orbit refers to the fact that spacecraft in this orbit circle the moon in a direction that is opposite to the way the moon orbits Earth, and that they move very far away at their farthest points. According to NASA, this orbit is very stable and enables a spacecraft to cut fuel consumption and stay in place while going around the moon. Next, how the mission is going. Ground stations on Earth temporarily lost communication with Orion as it passed behind the moon. 34 minutes later, NASA's Deep Space Network re-established contact. Orion's progress can be followed in real time thanks to a tracker provided by the space agency. On Friday, November 25th at 4:52 p.m., the orbital maneuvering system engine on the European service module will once again fire to perform the second of the 2 course correction maneuvers. Orion will be placed into the distant retrograde orbit by this maneuver, where it will remain for nearly a week while NASA does additional system tests. Before turning around and returning, the spaceship will pass the moon 40,000 miles away. On December 1st, Orion is scheduled to leave DRO and return to Earth. Artemis 1 has overall been a very straightforward mission. NASA Flight Director Jeff Radigan told reporters at a briefing on Friday, according to Mike Seraphin, the Artemis 1 mission manager, the team dealt with 13 abnormalities, the majority of which were quite minor. Orion is actually exceeding expectations as the spacecraft is gathering more power, displaying better heat rejection, and utilizing less power than predicted before. Artemis 1 is quite experimental. NASA is testing the Orion spacecraft and its new Space Launch System rocket, the latter of which still needs to survive re-entry through Earth's atmosphere. If the mission is successful, it will pave the way for Artemis 2, in which a crew would make a similar journey to the moon and back, and Artemis 3, which aims to land a man and woman on the lunar surface as soon as possible. Finally, the future of the space voyage. Even though the launch itself was amazing, there were still a lot of exciting milestones to come. The ESM, which also supplies power and controls temperature, is what propels Orion and is also in charge of correcting course as it travels. The expected duration of Le Voyage sur la Lune is 5 days, during which time mission controllers will closely monitor the systems of the capsule. Orion will try to snap an image of Earthrise like those recorded by Apollo, according to Rick LeBrode, lead Artemis 1 flight director, who was speaking to reporters on August 5th during a pre-launch briefing. When the spacecraft is at its greatest distance from Earth, the capsule will also take some pictures, according to LeBrode. Without a doubt, Artemis 1 is ambitious, but it has every right to be. The entire Artemis initiative is the first step towards sending people to Mars, and the knowledge we get now will support future expeditions to the Red Planet. Orion will return from the moon at Mach 32, but the spacecraft will be traveling at Mach 36 when it returns from Mars, according to NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, who spoke to the media on August 3rd. Evaluation of Orion's capacity to re-enter Earth's atmosphere at high velocity, which will be a crucial test of its heat shield, is one of Artemis 1's main objectives. The mission has had a successful beginning. Hope it continues to be that way. In other news, the most amazing images from the mission, starting with the orange cloud. This view from the Hubble Space Telescope shows CCB 130-3 with a stain that is orange. The components necessary for star formation are found in this thing, which is referred to as a molecular cloud. The material's density varies. The material in the center blocks reflects the light from background stars, and the material on the borders appears as wisps in contrast to distant stars. Hubble's Wide Field Camera 3 obtained this image 652 light-years away from Earth in the constellation Serpens is CB130-3. Moving on to who knew spacesuits could be fashionable. Space fashion has just been launched by Sabrina Thompson, an aerospace engineer at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. Thompson hopes that her interpretation of astronaut attire would motivate young women. This venture is a division of her ongoing Girl in Space Club project. Thompson is clear that her idea is not intended to go head-to-head with the NASA spacesuit manufacturers. Instead, it's a small creative project through which she hopes to engage kids by fusing their passions for space and physics with fashion. More on the cosmic hourglass. This formation is fascinating because it reveals details about how stars are created. The James Webb Space Telescope's near-infrared camera took the stunning picture. About 1 million miles from Earth, the observatory keeps watching for faint heat fingerprints emitted by intriguing objects throughout the cosmos from its remote and icy perch. In the neck of this cosmological hourglass, known as L1527, is a juvenile protostar. The fledgling is thought to be in the very beginning of star development and is only 100,000 years old. Let's talk about the water vapor imagery by Artemis 1. The streak that can be seen in this moving image was picked up by the GOES East weather satellite as it gathered data on atmospheric water vapor. It became visible as a result of NASA's Artemis 1 launch, the space agency's Heavy Lift Space Launch Systems rocket and its crew-capable Orion capsule lifted off from a launch pad at Kennedy Space Center in Florida on November 16th. Up next, NASA's mystery mission. The X-37B spacecraft is a scaled-down autonomous replacement for NASA's now retired space shuttle and is showcased in this photograph by the U.S. Space Force. On November 12th, the X-37B can be seen here having just landed at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Its 908-day journey in Earth's orbit has come to a close, making it the spacecraft's longest flight ever by 4 months. The operations carried out inside the Boeing-built spacecraft are actually classified. Moving on, Artemis 1 launch captured perfectly. Josh Dinner, a contributor to Space.com, photographed the trail of curled exhaust plumes the NASA Space Launch System moon rocket left behind after launching from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Josh took the picture not long after the 322-foot-tall rocket left the launch site after a lengthy delay brought on by a problem with an Ethernet switch at a radar monitoring location and a fleeting hydrogen fuel leak. The liftoff finally happened. The unmanned Orion spacecraft was launched by the rocket for the historic Artemis 1 mission to the moon and back, which will open the way for a return to the moon for humanity later this decade. Finally, Hurricane Nicole beats down on NASA's rocket. Following last week's Hurricane Nicole devastation, NASA's Space Launch System moon rocket is now standing tall in the moonlight in preparation for its intended first launch. Bill Ingalls, a NASA photographer, captured the image on November 14th of that same year. Prior to Hurricane Nicole making landfall on Thursday, NASA decided not to move SLS with the Orion capsule atop back to the assembly facility, leaving it on launch pad 39B to withstand the storm. The storm blasted the rocket with speeds above 80 miles per hour, but subsequent tests showed that the rocket and the capsule had only gotten relatively minor damage. Orion's exterior now has a tiny gap due to some of the insulating caulking being pulled off by the storm. However, NASA engineers confirmed that the spacecraft was meant to take much worse. And that's a wrap for this video, folks. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the lunar flyby images Orion has captured of the moon, and which one of the space-related phenomena was your favorite? Please let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up while you're down there, and go ahead and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. We will see you in the next video.